Welcome to the MMA Outsiders podcast with Andrew Pearson and AJ Hill.
Welcome to the MMA Outsiders podcast. This is Andrew Pearson.
I'm AJ Herrick.
And you are listening to us.
You said that, bro. We gotta get that better.
Yeah.
We gotta get the intro better. It's all good. We're still learning.
Someday, right?
Yeah, someday. We haven't really seen each other in a minute. Like last time we did it, we had to do it over Skype.
Yeah. That was interesting. So we're back in studio this week, down in AJ's base here in Kima. And we're here to talk about UFC 217, the UFC Sao Paulo card last weekend. Some interesting stuff happened.
We also got Phil Daru part 2 at the end of this podcast. That's going to be pretty cool.
That's going to be awesome. Stay tuned for that. He dropped some knowledge about a number of different things and gave his thoughts on McGregor's cardio problems, which were really interesting, and I definitely agree with what he said. So stay tuned for that. He talked a little bit about cognitive conditioning. So I guess he took some ideas from Vasyl Lomachenko to train Dustin Poirier, doing some stuff like working with numbers after Dustin Poirier was had his heart rate up and was really tired. So I guess help with kind of the mental conditioning side of fighting, because fighting is very decision intensive.
Have you seen the actual training footage that he does on Instagram or anything like that?
Phil Daru?
Yeah.
He does a lot of different stuff.
It's pretty cool.
And he posts pictures of clips of Ioana Jacare training, Dustin Poirier training, all the guys in American Top Team. He had a guy win this last weekend, Colby Covington.
Oh yeah, that's
so
right.
There are worse places to start out a podcast.
Well, so when I see him training Dustin Poirier, I feel you remember that game Simon Says. But the game, like the little light up game.
Oh yeah.
Or Bop It. I feel like I was pretty good at Bop It, so I feel like I could be,
pretty good at Simon Says.
Pretty good at UFC. Like that's how I feel.
Oh,
because I'm so
right.
good at Bop It.
It's a direct. The skills are.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, dude, I could do that shit. I could fight Conor McGregor.
My uncle used to play that game back in the day, and apparently he would get so good that it would get going for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
And they have different run times, but he would literally like walk away.
Yeah.
He would finish it. He would walk away, and then like he'd come back like 5 minutes later when the new light came up, and then he would do the whole thing.
Bro, how does it feel to be related to a potential UFC champion?
I know, right? if he was a little younger,
right?
Definitely.
So I had an interesting weekend this Saturday.
Yeah, tell me about your tell me about why you're mad at the Astros.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that yet. I'll save that at the end. Well, anyways, the Astros. Because we live in Houston, people assume that I'm supposed to like baseball and football and all this other stuff. We don't even have a baseball team in North Carolina. We don't. We just
you just don't play that game there.
We do play it, but it's kind of like hockey there.
You just play it with like a bunch of sticks in the woods.
Let's just put it this way: we have a hockey team. We have a professional hockey team.
That's very weird because North Carolina is not a cold place.
Yeah, neither's Dallas though, but they have a really good professional hockey team.
Yeah, see, that's very weird. Does it just have to do with the fact that hockey is a very white sport? But so is baseball.
Baseball too, yeah. I don't know if it's that. I think it's just people just don't give a crap about it. But we have like minor league teams. But anyways, but besides the point.
The point is you grew up not caring about baseball, so you don't really care about the Astros. You played baseball?
Yeah, I played baseball when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
My girlfriend's, because we talk about this, how much I hate other sports, because I don't think they translate to real life, like, fighting.
Yeah, AJ basically only cares about fighting.
Yeah.
That's his deeply philosophical position on sports.
Yeah, she said, you're just mad because you can't do it. And I said, well, actually, I did do it, and I realized how dumb it was, and I had one of those existential crises, and I found it absurd, and I walked away.
How old were you when you had this existential crisis? You were 6 years old?
6 years old.
Okay.
Anyway, so played at this gig on Saturday night, man. It was brutal. It was so cold outside.
Yeah, Houston went through a cold snap this past weekend. It's apparently supposed to heat up back up to 80 degrees today. But
so.
The Saturday and Sunday, really cold, especially for here.
Well, so Saturday we had the whole time we were outside. We were outside from 9, actually a little bit before that, 9 to 1:30, loading and unloading. We actually got to talk. We actually talked the place into having a fire pit on stage. So we had a fire pit on the stage,
just so you could like not freeze to death.
Yeah, it didn't really work as well as I thought, but so we put the fire pit on stage. We had this. It looked pretty cool. I mean, it was pretty neat. My friend was dressed up like a Native American in war paint.
Oh, that's
Halloween.
great. Good cultural appropriation is always cool.
I had a snapback on, so I was the other half, the yin of his yang. And
just
so,
two white guys.
Yeah, just two really white guys. So I get up and I go to the bar just to kind of chill for a second under the heater that was barely working. Sit next to this fella. And I said, "Hey, man, is anybody sitting here?" He goes, "No, man." And he's like drunk, real drunk. So I said, "Oh, fuck. All right, whatever." So I sit down, and all of a sudden this other guy comes in, and he sits down at the bar and orders a beer, and then this other guy just keeps eyeballing this guy. And then the guy that just walked in and ordered the beer goes behind me and this other gentleman. And the drunk guy that was sitting next to me goes, "Hey, better not stand behind me. Better not stand behind me. Get your ass down, boy. Get your ass down." And so they're kind of going back and forth. Next thing I know, the guy goes behind him, and this guy stands up. The guy that was sitting next to me that was drunk stands up and starts yelling at him. So I proceed to stand up right behind the guy. And
now you have to understand, AJ thinks about physical violence pretty much every second of every day.
Every second of every day.
Getting into a fight.
Yeah.
Physical altercation. And now it's actually happening.
Yeah. So, it happens more often than you think at gigs. I just am the calm person, which is surprising.
Yeah, that's very weird that you're calm about anything.
Well, you got to be calm in those situations because you win. You win the mental battle. And if you win the mental battle, it's what it is. You know?
Just like an MMA fight.
That's what I'm telling you, dude. I'm Bop It champ, bro. Heavyweight Bop It champ, bro.
So anyway, what happened?
So anyways, the other guy starts pouring beer all over. My friend's over in the corner, and he thinks that, like, I'm being involved in this. So he's, like, getting ready to come over from behind this other guy. But I was just behind the drunk guy. I was ready to choke him out when he started. Like, if he was going to swing at this other guy, I was ready to yoke him up.
Just, like, diffuse the situation?
Nobody was doing shit.
And was he shouting at this point?
Yeah, dude. I mean, they were into it, but nobody swung or anything like that. So I was just kind of waiting. But I was literally, like, right behind the guy just waiting. I was looking around. I was like, what the fuck is nobody's? There's no door guys. Bartenders aren't doing shit. They're just like, "Hey, stop it. Hey, stop." And I'm like, what? They're about to get into a fight for no fucking reason. They're drunk. What do you mean just stop it? So anyways, that one guy that had ordered the beer, that poured the beer all over the drunk guy, leaves. This guy proceeds to go, motherfucker, reaches down in his boot.
The drunk guy?
Yeah, the drunk guy reaches out in his boot and pulls out a knife and starts walking towards the other guy.
What was it? Was it like a Bowie knife? It was like
I'm going to tell you something when we shut the podcast off that makes it even funnier that you just said that. So he pulls out a pocket knife and he's like, "I'm gonna cut your fucking neck off." And then the bartender proceeded to go, hey, we're gonna call the cops. And then he puts the knife away. I mean, he was gonna go after the guy in the street. And then he just sits back down and nobody called the cops. Nobody did shit. So I'm just like, what the fuck kind of place are we at? So I go over. And surprisingly, I was so calm in that situation. So I think over the years I've lost my conscience.
Lost your conscience?
I think I lost my conscience because I was so, like, if he would have gotten stabbed, I don't know if I'd have been like, oh well.
You'd have been like Donald Trump, like, oh, he's bleeding. Who's going to clean up the floor?
Pretty much. Like this is how it's become being a musician. You just see like so much nonsense. Just
playing at bars constantly.
My
with people
soul is
drunk.
Yeah.
Is this why you don't get drunk anymore?
Yeah, that's why I don't drink anymore. Yeah, I just that too, and I think I'm allergic to beer.
What?
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Yeah.
No. What the fuck? You're allergic to beer?
Yeah, so I get like the
That's
flu.
not a real thing.
Yeah, swear to God, man, I get the flu. I get flu symptoms after I drink beer from the night before.
That's called a hangover?
No. Like if I drink one beer. But see, that's the thing. I used to drink a lot of beer.
Yeah.
Thinking that was the hangover. But then I tried out like casual drinking, you know, just like not. And I got the same thing. So I'm like, man, maybe there's something going on.
This is the guy who tried to make me drink Guinness, which is disgusting, by the way.
That's
So
right.
I'm sorry for anyone who drinks beer out there. I'm not a fan of beer in general.
Yeah. Well, I used to make fun of Andrew because he would, when he first moved down here, he ate fucking Cocoa Puffs and drank Pepsi. And I'm just like, are you 12? Like, wear a backwards cap and skateboard
No,
at the same time.
I don't wear backwards caps, and I don't know how to skateboard.
Well, I'm just saying that would fit your whole kit.
The whole like '90s kid kit.
The 90s kid kit. All right, anyways, so that was my weekend. Woke up with a sore throat, fucking pissed off. I got paid though, whatever. Let's talk about this past fight this weekend. Did you watch any of it?
Yeah, I had to. So I watched the main card. Started out with John Lineker just wailing on somebody for 3 rounds. Got pretty tired though. Didn't end up finishing.
Isn't that
the guy.
why he gets tired because he kind of blows his load pretty quick?
Usually Lineker's fine. He's fought 5 rounds before, and like usually he's just like unshakable, just
Right.
a blockhead moving forward. And this time he looked tired at the end. Threw a lot of spinning back kicks, which was weird.
It's always weird when you see that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
especially when it's a guy like Lineker whose whole philosophy is let me get in your face and throw 6 hooks at you as hard as I can.
Isn't it weird though? Like, I still get weirded out by people that do any kind of judo too.
Like, just like get a judo throw. And
Yeah, because it doesn't seem. I mean, if you can pull it off, for sure, do it. Like Ronda Rousey, obviously.
Cub Swanson.
Yeah, Cub Swanson. But like, I'm just like, I mean, I don't know. You're turning your back. You know, it just is very strange. It's one of those really risky things. You know.
My favorite thing is head and arm throws.
Yes.
Because especially in women's MMA, I don't know why they get attempted so frequently.
Right.
And they so rarely work.
Dude, I saw Jessamine Duke.
Yeah, she tried to get a head and arm
lost
throw.
that fucking fight. She was winning the fight, and she almost threw the fight. I was like, what the hell was that shit?
Yeah, she went for a head and arm throw and just like gave up her back and almost got choked out.
Yeah, dude. That was hilarious. Hey, Sharif, we got one of these middle finger things going on. Hey, man.
Yeah, we woke up AJ's visiting roommate.
Yeah, visiting roommate.
Just
or
walked
just
in and
friend. You
gave
say
me the
friend.
middle finger.
Yeah, I just
So,
walked in. Yeah. Oh.
All right.
So what we were saying was we were talking about the fight from this weekend. So what do you feel about the main card, the main fight?
Oh, Lyoto Machida versus Derek Brunson.
How do you feel about that? Because
Made me sad. Made me sad.
You being a long-time Lyoto Machida fan.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before, but
Yeah.
Machida was my first favorite MMA fighter.
Yeah.
And
I introduced him to him, by the way.
no, I had heard about him before.
You're welcome. You're welcome, bro.
Okay, all right. So Lyoto Machida was awesome. When I was first introduced to MMA, he was
Undefeated.
the champion.
He was the
had
man.
just beaten Rashad Evans, and everyone was saying it was going to be the Machida era. And that was before I even watched him fight. I was like, oh, this guy must be awesome. And then I finally watched him fight. And I was like, oh, this guy is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Even after the Shogun loss, I was still a huge fan. He dropped down to middleweight, and I was hoping he would beat Chris Weidman. Didn't, but it was an awesome fight.
Yeah.
But he's 39, man.
Yeah.
He's been around for a long time. He was suspended for 18 months, so like out almost 2 years for telling USADA.
Being honest,
telling USADA he used a substance that is like a fat burner. Doesn't even do a whole lot. He apparently didn't know it was illegal because it wasn't listed on the Portuguese version of USADA's website. But whatever. He comes back, and he had been knocked out twice before that by Yoel Romero and Luke Rockhold. So I honestly didn't expect a whole lot. I was hoping Machida would do his thing, but at 39, man, like you get more and more inconsistent. And Derek Brunson, he threw his signature left hand, didn't quite connect. Derek Brunson just like came over the top with a massive left hand of his own, and then another one, and then put him down. And it was like, yep, that's it. That's the fight.
Fun fact: Derek Brunson fights. He's from North Carolina, Wilmington.
Congrats.
I was pretty proud about that. David Branch. They fight at the same place. He's actually he has a jiu-jitsu belt under David Branch.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't know what color. Purple, I think.
Could be purple.
Yeah.
Could be blue. Maybe a red belt.
Ooh, I don't think it's red, bro. Yeah.
Maybe like green.
Yeah.
Could be a green belt with a couple stripes.
That's. I think that's karate. So let's say I would like also mention John Anik's commentary whenever Lyoto Machida got knocked out. You know what he said?
John Anik. I thought it was Cormier and it was Cormier. Was it Cormier and Anik on the commentary?
I thought so.
I thought it was Cormier and Dan Hardy.
It didn't sound like Dan Hardy to me. I thought it was John Anik.
Okay.
Or maybe it was Dan Hardy.
Yeah.
Either way, the person
or John Gooden. I thought it was
John Goodman from Roseanne.
No, John Gooden, the British commentator that is usually with Dan Hardy.
Oh no, I don't know.
I thought it was Dan Hardy, but anyway, go on.
Well, so anyway, you know what he said?
What did he say?
Brunson has slayed the dragon.
Which is the most stereotypical thing you can say. I avoided that in my post-fight piece, by the way.
Bro, I know he was like, man, sitting there planning all his stuff out, and he's thinking, man, I hope Machida loses, man, so I can use this fire punchline. Oh, this is going to get so good. I'm going to get a bonus, all this stuff. And then he says it, and then I'm just like, and probably everybody else. Wow, well, how original. How original.
On the other hand, on the flip side, there was Cormier freaking out in the intro when he came out to Game of Thrones music, and that was pretty great. I'm not going to lie. Machida using Game of Thrones, the Game of Thrones theme, which, first of all, I like anyway. I think it's a great theme. I love Game of Thrones. But also because Game of Thrones has dragons. And it took me me till the end of the intro to figure out that's why he was using it.
Yeah.
I was like, what connection does Machida have to Game of Thrones?
It could have been cool if he had like a
but
wig.
Cormier was just freaking out the whole time. And that honestly was a great moment.
It could have been cooler if he had a Machida kind of broke through and wore a Khaleesi wig.
Just like blonde hair.
Yeah, that would have been a lot funner. We would have probably gotten it a little bit quicker. I don't understand that stuff. The only reason I know about Khaleesi is from other people talking about it.
Game of Thrones cultural phenomenon. You know, I haven't seen the last season, but anyway.
Yeah, you read the books. It doesn't matter. So, what about Damian Maia, man?
Man, Damian Maia went out on a shield. And it, honestly, like, it made me sad, but it made me happy at the same time. He couldn't get his, like, stifling top game going. And you know he's in trouble when he grabs a single leg, he locks his hands around your leg, and he can't finish it. Because for 7 fights in a row, that was the kiss of death. No one could escape Damian Maia's single leg. Once he got a hold of it, especially if he got a hold of it more than once, it was over.
I wonder how that process goes because, you know, when you're training for a fight, you should be trained, especially for somebody that's a specialist and you already know what he's going to do. You should be drilling certain things.
Well, it was a couple,
right? So, but does it have to do with your training partners as well? I mean, you have to.
No,
mimic.
I think it's entirely your own ability. He was fighting guys like Matt Brown, and Matt Brown, for all his strengths, was never going to be able to out grapple Damian Maia or even really have the tools to like stay away from him. Carlos Condit has never been a good takedown. His takedown defense has never been good.
Yeah, that's true.
Gunnar Nelson was very impressive, the way Damian Maia just masterclassed Gunnar Nelson. And I think Gunnar Nelson maybe should have been better prepared for that.
Right.
So there's a number of fights in there that just those guys just didn't have the tools to deal with Damian Maia. Jorge Masvidal, that was an impressive win.
Yeah.
But Jorge Masvidal's a much smaller guy, moved up from lightweight. And, he I just didn't have, the raw physicality. But Colby Covington, that's his thing, is like scrambles and wrestling. We talked to Andrew Richardson a little bit about this before, and he kind of predicted it. Damian Maia was just not able to take him down. The really surprising thing was he just came out throwing heat in the first round. Like, he came out 2 strike and he won the first round. It was hammer and tongs. And Damian Maia outstruck Colby Covington for the first round. Yeah. And Colby Covington stuck to his game plan, kept throwing, didn't get tired. I mean, he's a decade younger and just stayed in his face. And then afterwards called out the entire nation of Brazil, called Brazil a dump.
That was great.
And then exited the arena like while protected by security guards to being bottles thrown at him.
It's big, dude. I know you never watched WWE or WWF.
No, so I never did. So people talk about how bad Covington is at trash talk.
Yeah.
And I've never really watched WWE. My idea of good trash talk, I guess, is Conor McGregor. But to me, it's like it's all trash talk. I mean, think about how American fans would feel if some Brazilian came to America and said America's trash, capitalist pigs, and just like gave us all the middle finger. He'd get a lot of stuff thrown at him. You might not care because you might agree with him.
It's not that I agree with him. It's just kind of like, it's just the way it is. Kind of, we got anything else, man? That's pretty much what everybody says about us.
Yeah. But I mean, like the Brazilian fans definitely didn't appreciate it.
Like, talk shit about our healthcare.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you said something that we didn't agree with.
Yeah.
Because American healthcare is shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, Colby Covington, and then his apology on Twitter. He's like, I want to apologize to all the filthy animals I may have offended by comparing them to Brazil. People are into it. That's the thing. Like, he's just being an unapologetic asshole, and people are into it, and that's the age we live in.
Yeah, but people are also into terrible music and terrible movies too, so it doesn't necessarily make it good trash talk.
So true.
Yeah, it just happens to be things that. Well, dude, I'll tell you this. I had a friend.
So this is the pop culture version of MMA that we all said we wanted when MMA went mainstream, and now we hate it.
Well, so I had a friend that was part of. He did wrestling, like not like real wrestling,
like pro wrestling.
Pro wrestling, yeah, and
fake wrestling.
Fake wrestling. So he did.
In case anyone still thinks that's real.
So. He was telling me these things because he would get into it. The reason he got into it was for like a confidence booster for himself. So I was all for it, and it is entertaining, So he got into doing he got into doing wrestling when he was 15 or 16, and he'd go to the Armory. And when he's in the Armory, they would set up the ring, probably get paid $50 if you're like a main eventer. It wasn't really that much money, but people just did it for fun. But he was telling me that some of these older ladies, these older men, they would come to the Armory to watch the wrestling match, and they would be getting into it. They'd be getting flipping them off, cussing them out, all knowing that it's a kayfabe, which is the term for it being fake or scripted, all knowing that it's all not a real thing going on, but it was just part of the hype. You get involved with it. It's the same reason people get involved in sports rivalries. There's no reason other than a territorial thing, or you pick a side and you pick a side. I mean, that's kind of just how it is. That when you're watching a match, you're going through. You're going to be on so and so's side as opposed to so and so's sides, and your view is going to be biased based on your own personal convictions. So that's kind of how it is with the wrestling stuff too. They'll start talking trash. People knowing that it's fake will still get into. I mean, you watch it on TV, WWE. There's people who have the signs. It's fun. It's fun to be part of a rivalry. So I was just comparing it to like sports rivalries as well. People just get into it for no apparent reason.
Yeah, it's true, man. I mean, it's tribalism too. At the most basic sense.
But not when it comes to like Colby Covington, unless you're from where he's from. But I mean,
where is he from? Who knows?
Indiana or something like
Indiana?
that.
That sounds right.
Some place like that.
Some place where they don't teach you how to talk trash.
Where's Tony Ferguson from? Probably the same place.
I don't know. He's got elk blood running through his veins. So wherever they have elks.
Have you ever seen that Charlie Sheen interview when he was like on cocaine?
No.
Dude, you got to watch that. It's hilarious. He's just like wigging out. They're asking him, it's like, what have you been up to lately? And he's winning. That's where that comes from. Oh, right? Dude,
that cultural meme?
Oh, yeah.
It comes from a coked out interview?
Oh, it was hilarious.
That's
and then
funny,
he's like,
man.
I got tiger blood running through my veins. But it doesn't top the James Brown interview when he was on CNN. You have got to watch that.
Wait, when was
Anybody
this?
listening, it was 80s. Anybody listening to this, check out the James Brown CNN interview. It is the I watch it several times a day to get me laughing. If I'm in a bad mood, it's so ridiculous.
So, what's next for guys like Colby Covington? We had Darren Till win last weekend. Kamaru Usman. The welterweight division has like several young guns kind of breaking through. I guess Mike Perry, we can call him one of those guys. What's next for Covington? Does he get a top contender fight after this? Damian Maia was the number 3 guy. Obviously, stylistically, ended up being a pretty good match for Covington. Even though, what was it, like 29-27? That final round, man, was just brutal because Damian Maia had clearly he left it all in the octagon. I was like proud of him, you know what I mean? For a guy who's just so nice, whose stated goal at the beginning of a fight is to finish it without hurting the other guy. He went in there and just threw everything he had into that first round and went to war and didn't win, but he went out on a shield. That's what they say they all want. Colby Covington got hit a lot by Damian Maia. Damian Maia, it makes you wonder, what is the ceiling in this division?
Yeah.
And I guess, where does he go against someone who can stop his wrestling?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that you think he was worried about Damian Maia's punches, or do you think he was just kind of going in there because he's going to be smarter?
He's going smiling, so probably not.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, if he was fighting somebody like Tyron, who has knocked people out, or anybody that's a decorated striker, he's probably not going to have the same game plan. You know.
Honestly, that's an interesting fight, man, because Covington claims he made Tyron Woodley quit in the gym.
Of course he did.
Everyone always claims this.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about Garbrandt, Dillashaw's gym stories. Hopefully on a bonus episode later this week before UFC 217 with Andrew Richardson. But
real quick, I saw Andrew Richardson's Twitter. He's a young looking fella. I didn't realize how young he was.
Yeah, he looks like he looks very young, man.
I was like, whoa. Well,
he's what? Isn't he like 20?
Yeah, I guess, man. But dang, I was like, he's pretty. I don't know. It just threw me off a little bit. I don't know. Sorry, Andrew.
So yeah, sorry, Andrew Richardson. You look like a child.
Yeah,
you fight like a man, but you look like a child.
Yeah.
But yeah, so watch out for that later this week. But I mean, it's actually not an unbelievable thing, especially if you consider. I talked to Phil Daru about Tyron Woodley's cardio regimen, so you can listen to that later this episode when we talk about guys who have cardio problems. But Woodley fights at a slow pace, and he's able to slow the pace down of his fights. Covington fights at like a breakneck pace, and that was what kind of won him this fight. He was just able to keep up the pace for all 3 rounds. He's a good wrestler. I don't think he's going to take Tyron Woodley down unless he gets him really exhausted. But it's one of those things, I see it as having 2 likely outcomes. One, Tyron Woodley knocks him out because he got hit a lot by Damian Maia, and Tyron Woodley obviously hits way harder than Damian Maia. Tyron Woodley could easily knock him out. 2, it's another... Well, I guess there's 3 outcomes. Could be another boring Tyron Woodley fight where he does manage to slow the pace down and score enough like big moments to win the fight. And 3, Covington...
One of those come and get it fights.
Yeah. Well, those are his specialty. Yeah. He just stands there, and if you can't do your thing, he wins.
I mean, kind of like I get it. I kind of get it.
It's winning in fights, it's just not winning in fans.
Right. I don't think he cares.
No, man. And honestly, like, I don't blame him. I really don't blame Tyron Woodley for fighting to his strengths. Everyone has their strengths that they fight to.
I mean, GSP 2, like, jab, shoot, jab, shoot. Yeah,
if we're gonna get on Tyron Woodley for being boring, like I mean, well, the thing is though, at least GSP was doing something in most of the moments of his fights to win it. So if you're throwing a jab that laces up your opponent's eye and breaks their orbital bone, in the case of Josh Koscheck, you're doing something to win the fight. It may not be like a finish, or it may not be like be one of those highlight moments. Yeah. But there's a process to what you're doing.
I wonder how many people ordered that. I wonder if that's why he was like the at the time broke so many pay-per-view records.
I think it was because
people were oh, is this going to be the fight he knocks out somebody or he chokes somebody out?
We always came into it expecting something different from what he had always shown us.
Oh, same shit. Damn it. $50 down the fucking drain.
Yeah, that was great up until the Johnny Hendricks fight, and then that was
beautiful. I loved that fight. I was like, yeah, big rig.
Yeah, everyone was on board the Johnny Hendricks train just because their
Whataburger.
GSP had been there for so long. Yeah, Johnny Hendricks, real enemy. Whataburger.
I feel you, bro. Hey, so let me real quick before we talk about briefly about UFC 17.
UFC 17.
217 is what I said. I meant to say. Sorry.
You should be sorry.
Colby Covington. What's his what's his nickname? Does he have a nickname?
Yeah, Chaos.
Okay, so somebody went on Wikipedia's page right now, and I'll try to post it. I just took a picture of it, and, and you know how you can edit it.
Yeah.
So somebody
anyone
went
can
on there.
edit Wikipedia.
Colby Covington, and he has his statistics, and born in Rockland, California, and this is other names, and it says scat.
What?
Scat, like shit. Yeah, like poop. Like his other name's Scat.
How did that? Did someone just add that in there, or was
Yeah,
that
you
like
can
an
do that on
actual?
Wikipedia.
No, I know that, but like that was an actual nickname at some point.
No, I don't. Well, if it was, then he has the absolute most oblivious person in the world.
I think he is pretty oblivious, but that's really funny. So Colby Scat Covington.
Yeah, other name's Scat. God. And there's another reason scat is used like for it's a type of singing.
Oh yeah, scatting. Can you demonstrate that for us, AJ?
That stuff like that. But if that's what,
Oh, AJ,
if
that was
real,
that was really good.
If that were
this is
real,
what you do for your career, right?
yes, I scat all over the place. If this were real, and that was like he's like, yeah, my name's Scat because I'm so good at talking shit. Then he is absolutely the most oblivious person in the fucking world.
It can't be real because it doesn't say Chaos, and usually on the other names it includes nicknames, and his official nickname is Chaos.
Let's just entertain the fact that maybe he's like, you know what, guys? I'm talking so much shit. I got a new name for myself. They call me Scat Covington.
Colby shit Covington.
Yeah, like Scat Covington because I'm good at spitting. You know, I'm just gonna
Straight
go with
fire
that right
on the
now.
mic.
Oh my god,
That's what he thinks he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, again, like it's getting him some attention, a lot of negative attention.
Okay.
I don't know if he can ever fight in Brazil again. Remember when Chael Sonnen was getting death threats? You got to imagine it's worse for Covington, right? He beat the nicest guy that fights in an octagon and just shit all over the crowd.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's crazy. So, anyways, that was pretty funny. Let's talk about. I'm running a little hot on this mic for some reason. Let's talk about UFC 217. It's a pretty cool card. Let's just talk about it briefly because we're gonna have Andrew Richardson on tomorrow.
yeah. So let's talk about some of this stuff. So did you see Rose Namajunas playing the piano?
Oh, she good?
Yeah, she's really good, man. She was. It wasn't just like the one song that some people.
The entertainer.
Yeah, sit down and like play one song. No, it was like I think it was Chopin, and she was reading it. She was reading the music, and it was really fucking good. You have to check it out. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, her family's from where are they from? Are they Norwegian?
Rose Namajunas?
Yeah, her mom's like from
Honestly,
country in Eastern Europe.
I have no idea.
Yeah, they're so a lot of times everybody knows how to play piano. Like I've met so many people that are from like Poland, from any Eastern European country. Most of the time,
They just grow up playing it. Well, I was super impressed. I've heard some people actually predicting a Namajunas win, which I think is just them putting it out there so that if it does happen, everyone will remember them.
It's kind of like the
and
Astros
if it doesn't
t-shirts.
happen, yeah.
Astros t-shirts, 2017 champions, and it hasn't fucking happened yet. So like when they will
will
lose,
happen though.
No, listen,
Go
when they
Astros.
lose, it's gonna be
Go
a
Astros.
weird t-shirt to fucking wear the rest of your life because
They
there's
won't
gonna be some
lose.
people. Okay, they just lost last night, didn't they?
No, they won last night.
Did they win?
It was one of the best games of all time, apparently.
It was tied for like ever. They tied at 12-12 for a while. In the ninth, it was 12-12
it was
tied.
extra innings, and the Astros won.
Oh man, I'm so glad I didn't have a gig last night. We wouldn't have fucking played.
Oh yeah,
This
no
is
way.
my life, people. I just want you to understand, like when Texas wins shit, I lose shit. So I take it personally. I take it absolutely
hilarious, man.
personally.
But yeah, yesterday the Houston was involved in one of the best football games people had seen in a long time, and one of the best baseball games people had ever seen.
Just one of the best.
Two sports
because
that
there
we
hasn't
don't
been
follow at all.
Another one that hasn't happened yet. It's kind of like when Brennan Schaub fucking says, man, he's the best of all time. That's like he uses that very, very, very generously.
I think everyone uses that very generously.
I don't.
Like the UFC uses it very generously. Like Demetrius Johnson might be the greatest of all time whenever John Jones fights. John Jones, possibly the greatest of all time ever. Anderson Silva was the greatest of all time. George St. Pierre, coming back, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Which, I mean, I guess that is true.
Yeah, but it's a little bit different whenever Brendan Schaub was like, man, he's pound for pound best.
Conor McGregor, best pound for pound boxer of all time.
Pound for pound, man. Beast. He's a beast. So anyway, Lithuanian. She's Lithuanian. All right, so.
Lithuanian,
okay. Man. So if you are, let's say, okay, so TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt. If you are TJ Dillashaw, what's your game plan?
That's a great question, man. I mean, I'm assuming if I'm TJ Dillashaw, I have a lot of familiarity with Cody Garbrandt. So I would go in
from a couple years ago.
From a couple years ago, but you know what? Yeah. Fighters don't change as much as people think they do. Yeah. The same basic habits are going to be there. I guess I would, man, it's hard to say because at that level, at that speed, athleticism matters so much. I would go in there, I would try to overwhelm him with volume.
Right.
And I guess try to wear him down. Garbrandt was able to kind of slow the pace on Dominic Cruz. We know that his strategy versus Cruz was basically whenever Cruz got into the pocket, he would just throw rights and lefts really fucking hard. And it worked really well for him. And, and also he, other than that, he would do a lot of head movement. He has great fundamental footwork. But yeah, that would be my strategy with TJ would be to just try and get in his space, move my head, hopefully out the way of his shots, and try to just touch him up with a lot of volume, a lot of kicks. I would kick Garbrandt a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
From range.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of leg kick. And see, like that, so just kind of for the hell of it, I'll say this. Hold on, let me turn them up one more time. I think we're using different mics this time, so I had the presets changed. Just from experience from sparring people that are experienced kickboxers, dude, like if you're not, I mean, I don't think I've ever thrown a leg kick in a sparring match in my life. I just go in there doing what I know, like
throwing hands.
Yeah. And so like
throwing heaters.
Doing boxing. And so like by the end of it, dude, like I wasn't prepared to block those kicks, even though I know.
The first time I got like kicked in the legs consistently, it was by like a former WC fighter, John Franchi. And like
can't walk.
It was like getting hit with a baseball bat. Yeah. He just kept kicking me, and it got more and more painful.
Yeah, you can't walk. It's people don't understand. Like people watching from the fucking couch eating fucking Cheez-Its and shit. They don't understand like the pain. Like I couldn't walk for a week. This guy was like he was just an amateur. He wasn't a pro, but he'd been doing it for a long time. And man, we were just sitting there. Granted, I won, but. Anyways,
but you felt it. You felt it for the next week.
I couldn't walk.
Couldn't walk at all.
Couldn't walk.
Yeah.
I was limping for a week. I had bruises up and down my thigh. It does affect your performance. So if you are,
so you're saying TJ Dillashaw should go out there and kick him in the legs a lot.
I don't know about that, but I'm just saying like
he does need a long range tool. Yeah. To you know what I mean like. Cruz's problem.
He's going to throw a head kick. Oh,
he's going to throw lots of head kicks. Cruz's problem was that he couldn't. He has all these kind of little piddling strikes at range, and he seemed to like want to get aggressive. He won like a couple rounds of that fight. I think.
Of course.
But I think he got in his head that he could knock Garbrandt out. Like I really think that was something he thought about.
He just thought it because it's the same bullshit.
He was uncharacteristically aggressive. So maybe TJ's best strategy would be just to pile up shots like jabs and like safe long distance strikes. Yeah. Without kind of exposing himself too much to Garbrandt's power.
I think it's the same bullshit people are talking about, when they're like, man, Garbrandt, he started unranked at the beginning of the year, unranked.
And then he was champion at the end of the year.
So I think it was the same bullshit where people's like, he's not experienced, and Dominic Cruz in his mind is like, who's this kid? He ain't fought anybody. I fought this guy. Okay,
especially when you run rings around someone in the trash talking.
Yeah. But who cares? Like Garbrandt? He's been fighting for people just don't understand, dude. He was an amateur boxer in his teens. That is very. I mean, those are seasons. Like people don't understand that either. That there's amateur boxing seasons.
That counts.
Yes, that's fight experience. That other people don't have that are professional fighters. They don't understand. It's still fighting. So if you take
it's timing, it's distance, it's all the whole striking phase of the fight.
Yeah.
He's
It's
very
like Darren Till.
and he also wrestled for a very long time, so he's very experienced.
Very experienced. Darren Till, the same thing. People talking about who the fuck's Darren Till? Even us. Who the fuck's Darren Till?
Yeah, and he had a Muay Thai career before his MMA career. Yeah. He was undefeated.
Undefeated.
Yeah.
Like come on. And like 38 knockouts.
So that's actually a great segue. So I mean, yeah, Garbrandt is going to be a tough nut to crack. When I talked to Richardson, and we'll get into this a little bit next week, but he said the only way he thinks someone is going to take the belt from Garbrandt is by knocking him out.
Of course, absolutely.
Because he's really hard to take down. In fact, I think he might have some of the best takedown defense I've ever seen. Dominic Cruz has phenomenal timing on his entries, and he just wasn't able to get anything going.
Do you think he's got better takedown defense than TJ though?
Yeah, and TJ has a really good takedown defense, but Dominic Cruz got in on TJ and took him down a couple times.
That's true.
I think a lot of that's down to athleticism.
Do you think it had to do with his plantar fasciitis too? Both his feet were taped up. He wasn't moving like he usually
he had
did.
that same stuff versus Dillashaw, man.
Not as bad though. I think that did affect him in that fight.
Cruz, it's really hard to say, man. Like, was it? It's hard to say, like, was Cruz not on his best game? And I don't think he quite was. I think the fight could have been more competitive. It doesn't really matter
though because he still lost.
Yeah, he did. He lost, and by like a wide margin in the end. He got knocked down 4 times in that fight.
Yeah.
TJ Dillashaw is really tough. I mean, it's a hard fight to call, but it's also really hard to pick against Garbrandt. I mean, the guy grew up fighting his 240-pound brother in like a parking lot for like an hour. So there's no quit in him. He's phenomenally athletic. Honestly, I think he's a phenom athlete. He might be one of the best athletes in the UFC. Who
do you think would have won that fight?
That's my main event.
Yeah. Who do you think would have won that fight with Conor McGregor and the Ultimate Fighter and Cody Garbrandt?
See, now that's a really interesting question, man, because he said he wanted to box McGregor, and man, I can't take that away from him. He could very well beat McGregor. Who knows?
In a boxing match?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could. I'm not saying he would.
I'm saying he definitely probably would.
You think he would?
Dude, I'm telling you, man. Man,
the funny thing is, like, the thing about Garbrandt is, like, when I first watched him fight, I was like, he had that same kind of smoothness to his striking, that, like, practiced calmness in the pocket when he first debuted against Marcus Brimage. But I was like, this guy's not quite as good as Conor McGregor when you compare the two, at respective points in their careers, because he does get hit a lot. If he's not paying attention, I guess if he just doesn't care, he does get hit a lot. He's clearly capable of defense, but I don't know, man. It'd be really interesting.
It's like taking. I guarantee if you take some of these take a professional UFC fighter, put him in a ring, just boxing. Put him in a ring with somebody like an amateur boxer, maybe a mid-level pro amateur boxer. The something like that. They're not quite pro yet, but maybe they had 50 fights. What do you think's going to happen?
Man, here's what I think will happen. I think the MMA fighter will win in stretches, but I think the boxer over 12 rounds will win.
I'm not saying 12 rounds. I'm saying just sparring. Just put him in a sparring ring with an amateur boxer.
First of all, both guys are going to land some shots.
Oh, of course, but
you know what I mean.
I'm just saying.
I think the MMA fighter wins in stretches, but the pace is the boxer is gonna jab them up.
It's just
you watch Cyborg versus that Olympic boxer. Cyborg landed shots. When she got in her face, she was, it wasn't like she was helpless in there, but you watched a clip that stretched out a bit. As soon as it goes past like a couple minutes, she's getting jabbed. She's getting just outworked.
So when McGregor fought Floyd, you saw, like, he did land shots. Once Floyd set it off, you saw the difference. Like, obviously McGregor was tired, but there is a difference. Let's not make a mistake.
There's a difference. And remember, Floyd's he's really old.
He's old too, but there is a difference between him and Conor when it comes to boxing. There's a clear skill difference. The thing I was impressed about most with was that McGregor's timing translated. His power didn't, but his sense of timing did. His sense of distance did. His speed did. Yeah.
He didn't look slower, especially when he was fresh. He landed that counter uppercut. He landed a bunch of shots.
Yeah, he did. He landed
against
pretty good.
An admittedly like rusty Floyd, who wasn't taking it super seriously.
Right.
But still,
yeah.
So you're right. There's a huge gap.
I just think in a boxing match, Cody Garbrandt, who's in his prime, him and Conor doing a boxing sparring match, just boxing. He is just so, like, he takes that shit seriously. His uncle, they traveled all over the States, like doing boxing competitions and shit. But when he was in high school and stuff, like he's very experienced.
Yeah,
and
he's been around.
Yeah. So whatever.
So talking about like other kind of amateur experience before the fights, Stephen Thompson and Jorge Masvidal have a really interesting fight coming up, and I want to take a little bit of time to preview that. Thompson, I watched his infamous clip where he fought Raymond Daniels.
Yeah.
In like the Chuck Norris World Combat League
with
of
the
like
long pants
kickboxing. So he had like 57 fights, and that one was ruled a no contest. But people who like Thai boxing and like kickboxing kind of shit on Stephen Thompson's record a little bit. And obviously he's not fighting the top kickboxers. There was no leg kicks,
right.
But that experience, as different as it was, clearly helped him develop that same smoothness. But then Jorge Masvidal is a really, really good boxer, and I think he's boxed professionally as well. He's been in the gym for years and years and years.
Yeah.
How do you see that fight playing out between Thompson and Masvidal?
It just depends. I think it just depends on how aggressive Masvidal is going to be and how much Stephen Thompson is going to be more of a counter striking in that fight. I think there's going to be a lot of.
You think there's going to be a lot of standing and staring at each other?
I think for the first round, it's going to be that feeling out process, because that's the thing. You got two strikers, man. I mean, you get punched. No, I mean that's you got to kind of feel that shit out, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when you got very dangerous, very sharp strikers. Both guys are really sharp on the counter. Masvidal knocked out Cowboy Cerrone countering a kick.
Yeah.
So
I can see that happening.
Yeah.
But I can see Stephen Thompson being a little bit more aware of I could see him staying on the outside a lot more and then striking like a snake or something.
I think the best scenario for Thompson would be replicate something like he did in the Robert Whittaker fight, where you have clearly a very experienced striker in Robert Whittaker, a guy with a good jab, a guy with sharp boxing, and he kind of pieced him up and then rocked him.
Yeah.
Masvidal. The thing with Thompson is he's besides the fight with Woodley's with the two fights with Woodley,
right.
He's really kind of known for striking, like outlanding his opponents or outstriking his opponents like 2-1. Mm-hmm. And Masvidal is famous for hanging back and not really understanding when he's not quite winning a round. Mm-hmm. So I could see it going that way as well. That to me is the most interesting. Besides the title fights, that's the most interesting fight on the card.
Yeah.
Then you have Joe Duffy versus James Vick.
Joe Duffy's also, he's a 7-0, I believe, a professional boxer.
Another one of these guys, yeah.
Yeah, it's, man, when you're a specialist like that, dude, like, I love boxing so much. And yeah, they're obviously two different sports, but man, you see somebody that's such a specialist with their hands.
I think it's the prettiest part of MMA. It's like watching people box well in MMA is something special.
That's the thing. It's an art. There is an artistic value to boxing. Yeah, it might not be the most practical skill to have in MMA.
I think it is practical.
I think it is.
As long as you have the base grappling skills needed to like keep the fight where you want it.
Understand you can't do the same type of rolling head movement, dipping side to side, slipping.
Yeah, so you understand the limitations of it in MMA.
But yeah, I mean it's beautiful, and it applies. Everybody throws hands. Not everybody throws kicks all the time. Everybody's punching.
That's true, man.
In any fight you see, everybody's punching. Even in jiu-jitsu matches, when you see Rickson Gracie doing his famous beach battle in Brazil back in the day. I mean, once they get you on the ground, what are they doing? They're opening you up with strikes.
Yeah.
Punches, you know. Anyway. Man, this is it's longer than I thought we were going to roll. And notice how we're not talking about GSP, Michael Bisping.
I don't really want to talk about GSP, Michael Bisping.
I will say
the
this.
way I look at it,
Yeah.
it's a bonus. It's on top of everything else. I see this card as being complete with Rose Namajunas versus Joanna Jacek and TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. That's the main and co-main.
Yeah.
And then what's this? Oh, some bullshit fight on top of it,
It's
but
like
it happens to be GSP versus Michael Bisping.
It's
I'll
like the
take it.
secret level on Super Mario.
Exactly. It's like one of those dark fights. I just pretend it doesn't exist until it happens, so that I don't have to think about it and how stupid it is.
Exactly. All right. Well, are we going to be able to put the Phil Daru interview on, you think?
Yeah. So let's get started with Phil Daru. But I wanted to mention one thing first. Do you see Rampage call out Nick Diaz to move up to his weight class to fight him over this whole thing with this girl?
No, I didn't see that.
So he did. He said, step up to my weight class, be a man. Trying to, I guess, sell a fight with Nick Diaz. And, man, I got to say, as manufactured as it is, like our theory is, because you remembered the old story with Rampage stealing Nick's girl back in the day. So this, in your mind, this is all kind of a bit,
bullshit.
A work. But I would be into it. I honestly, I would be into it. But I have to say, what is Rampage's weight class nowadays?
He was a heavyweight, I believe. His last fight he was heavyweight.
He had to cut to heavyweight, probably.
I don't know if he had to cut to heavyweight, but he was on the fighter, and it wasn't the fighter, the kid, Big Brown Breakdown, talking about his fight. Yeah, he was heavyweight. So, I mean, shit. That's not unless they do like some kind of bizarre catchweight fight in Bellator.
Yeah, they could, man.
Some like Ken Shamrock, Hoist Gracie.
Ryzen, make it happen. New Year's Eve card. Make it happen. Natural fit.
Dude, yeah, but...
Is Nick Diaz still under contract with the UFC?
Well...
I don't know why we're talking about this as if it's a serious thing.
Anytime you get suspended or you take break or retire, they freeze your contract or something like that, so you're stuck.
Oh, that's bullshit. So we're actually going to talk to John Fitch about how the UFC is a monopoly.
Oh, yeah. By the way, that was a good intro, Andrew. We're going to have John Fitch.
Great segue, right?
No,
Super professional.
That was yeah. By the way, guys, we're gonna have John Fitch on. Son of a bitch. We're gonna have John Fitch. Do you just the energy?
We are going to talk to John Fitch about
We're gonna have John Fitch on. That was our surprise guest, and then you say we're gonna talk to John Fitch because they don't know John Fitch is gonna be on here.
But now they do.
But now, All right, just go ahead.
We'll fix it in post.
No, it's fine. Let's just leave it. It's fine.
All right, everyone. Without further ado, here's Phil Daru.
Oh, that was catchy. I like that.
You always have Joe Rogan talking about these fighters are carrying around so much muscle mass. You've got guys like Tyron Woodley who are really, really good at slowing down a fight to fight at their pace, to where they can throw with maximum power for all 5 rounds. And you have fighters like Amanda Nunes, who's an incredible athlete, but she has to pace herself. We saw that in her last fight. Mm-hmm. What is that really a matter of carrying muscle mass? And is there a way to be a bulky fighter and still fight at pace, or is that just a natural trade-off?
No, I mean the preparation is key there. I mean look at Sean Sherk. He had a gas tank and he was muscled up.
Yeah.
So it's not really a fact of that. It's that a lot of it has to do with background, and a lot of it has to do with being able to have a high enough VO2. But yeah, muscle does require energy. It does require oxygen. And if they don't have a high enough lactate threshold, the chances of them actually being depleted and dying out is because of the fact that they cannot cope with the oxygen that they have to release through the muscle. So what they need to do is, like I said, from a periodization progression standpoint, they need to build a solid aerobic base outside of camp, right? So we're talking road work, we're talking LSD work, the stuff that I said not to do. We're really talking about doing that. They need to do that, and I know that Tyron, switched it up a lot and is now doing, rounds on rounds and also long distance versa climber work, and it's actually helping him a lot.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Amanda. Amanda's thing with her wasn't so much of the muscle, it was more psychological, where she thought that if she were to explode too frequently, she wouldn't have the gas to go all 3 or 5 rounds. But from a psychological standpoint, we've shown her through practice that it can be done. You have to develop, like I said, that solid aerobic base, and then from there you can work into your anaerobic base, where you're doing fast interval training, and that's going to help you, with the short bursts of energy throughout time, and then the lactic threshold, which is basically circuit training, and that's going to help you better cope with that lactic buildup, right? So yeah. In the case of that, you want to just make sure that you're doing what you need to do in sequences and making sure that once fight comes, you're ready to go. So if everything is, and that's the thing with MMA, it's a mixed aerobic system sport. There's multiple bioenergetic demands going on the whole time. So for me, you have to make sure that you are training these modalities throughout the entire camp and also outside of camp, because, like I said, you want to build that base.
Gotcha. So if you have now, and I know fighters do come into this with different genetics, but you mentioned the psychology of it. looking at someone like, the highest profile example would be Conor McGregor, but Amanda Nunes too. Her, you could see it in a couple of her earlier fights, like with Kat Zingano, and a little bit in that first Shevchenko fight, where her fighting spirit was still there.
Yeah.
It was like that scene when Bane fought Batman. He was like, I was wondering which would break first, your mind or your body. And she was still there to fight mentally, but you could tell that like,
shut down.
Her body was just not responding. Same actually with Hector Lombard. I don't think Hector Lombard ever mentally gives up.
Yeah.
But when he had that fight with Magny, it was just like his body stopped working.
So here's two things with Hector. Hector's one, he's an aging fighter for sure. But Hector, depending on what he likes to do, and Hector is my boy, like without a doubt, that's my boy. Even when I was fighting, I used to watch Hector. So
he's
and I've worked with
insane
Hector,
what he can do.
Yeah, and he's an outstanding athlete. He's phenomenal. He's strong as shit. He's powerful, but at the same time, Hector doesn't know how to utilize his strengths from an endurance standpoint, right? So he has to understand how Woodley knows how to do it now, which is learning how to use his strengths for a long duration. But it just comes down to a fact that you have to prepare properly, and if he doesn't do it, then you see what happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not a case of building so much, because man, he was born with that muscle. If you ever know Hector, like Hector doesn't lift weights.
Really?
He doesn't lift weights. Trust me, I know.
That's so unfair.
He lifts. Trust me, I know. But Hector does not lift weights to that degree of what he looks like. He looks like a professional bodybuilder, but he doesn't lift weights like a bodybuilder. He barely, does anything with that.
Wow.
So it's not a case of that. So he's been dealing with this all his life. So it's not about the muscle at that point. It's just about not being properly prepared.
Gotcha. Huh. Where does he train? Does he still train full time at American Top Team?
Yeah. As of right now, he's pretty much, taking a break. But Hector's got a lot of things going on, man. Hector's got like multiple businesses. He's got, a bunch of like side businesses that he's doing, and from a training standpoint, the only time he really had was the time he had to spar and to roll. And we did a couple of conditioning sessions here and there, but as from a physical preparation standpoint, I would like to get him in a little bit more. But the time frame and him having all these things, all these side ventures that he had going on, it was very difficult to get him in the gym.
Really? So he's out here hustling, and that may have actually played a role. It's really interesting how the things you don't see can affect what you see on fight night.
It really is, man. And I had this conversation with him, about maybe 5 weeks out from the fight, and I said, man, I hope that you're taking this as serious as possible, but at the same time, I think that this needs to be one of your last goes, because he has so much going on right now that he doesn't need to fight anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From just a friend standpoint, and then as a coach, I
just
was like
having that hard conversation.
I didn't really want to see this happen, and of course, he could have beat that kid. You know what I mean? Like from a skills perspective, he could have definitely beat that kid, but it just wasn't there for him because of the fact that he had so much other things going on. And to be honest, I know what that feels like, because when I was building up my business, I became a pro, and I dropped 2 straight fights because I was building up my business and not really paying attention to my training.
Wow.
So I know how it goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's doing it at the UFC level. I was doing it on the regional scale. So, and I said that to Tisha Torres too. Tisha was going to get her master's.
Yeah, I heard that interview on your podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Tisha was doing, and Tisha, that's what she wanted to do, and that's her main goal, is to get her master's and go on and do criminology and actually work for the FBI or some shit like that. I don't know, but at that time she was training for Rose Namajunas. So you're over here worrying about your paper that's due, but you got a major fight coming up.
Yeah,
that's at the highest level of your sport. So, I I would like to see them be more focused on the task at hand, but I can't talk. Well, I guess I can't talk because it's happened to me, and
Yeah.
that's the only reason why I would say that.
I mean, it's always great to be able to speak from a perspective of experience. Now, in terms of and I did want to ask you about Conor McGregor specifically because he looked puzzled after his last fight. Like he's not quite sure what he can do because he always looks like he gets this phase in his fights where he looks tired and wobbly.
Yeah.
Is that fixable in your opinion?
So I've talked about this on my podcast a couple of times, and what I truly believe is that Conor was doing everything that he possibly thought he could do right, but one thing he didn't account for was pacing himself accordingly to get through that boxing match, right? And he did it the same way with Nate. But I think a lot of it has to do psychologically with when Conor feels like he can't hurt you, he begins to panic.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that.
It doesn't seem like it because he's throwing more punches, but mentally he's panicking.
Mentally he's panicking. You could see it in his eyes.
Yeah.
And his demeanor drops. And it happened with Nate when Nate kept coming forward. And Nate was full bloodied up and he kept pushing forward. And he was like, shit, what do? I just hit this guy with all my might, and usually that knocks people out. So when that doesn't happen, you start to get nervous. And then your heart rate starts to spike. And then you start sweating, and then your oxygen starts to go, and you start breathing heavier, and that's when you start to deplete, and then you start making dumb decisions.
You start thinking about, I've got to either get this guy out of here. You start thinking about ending the fight rather than winning.
Either that, or you make a dumb decision to shoot in on a guy that's a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And I'm not discrediting Conor at all, man. Conor's done amazing things in the sport itself, and just as a businessman himself. He's a showman, and he's grown, from just being a nobody to being a millionaire right now and being the most well-known in the sport. But at the same time, he has some things that he needs to work on psychologically. And it sounds like I'm saying some crazy stuff right now because from a psychological standpoint, he breaks everybody, right? But when somebody can take that, like a Floyd Mayweather, because Floyd's been in there with the best, and he is pretty much the best, let's face it, in that particular sport.
Yeah, especially defensively.
Yeah, if you're not overwhelming them and you can't break them mentally, he starts to get frazzled. He doesn't know what to do, and that's when things start to go crazy. And it doesn't look like that, but if you have a keen eye to it, if you understand fighting, you see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll try to get you Dustin before the fight. You can do that, and then
I don't remember where I heard it. I don't remember if Eve told me or if I heard it on a podcast, but someone said Dustin Poirier is like the most disciplined guy they've ever met. Like if he's in fight camp, like he won't eat an almond if it's not in his diet.
Yeah, Dustin's on another level, man. Dustin is one of my guys that I know that he can actually he has the opportunity to be a champ. Like he needs to be a champion, without a doubt. He deserves it,
Oh yeah, man.
And definitely, like, the things I do with him, I don't do with anybody else. You know what I mean? The things that I make him do to get him better, because I know he'll fully buy into it. He just goes full bore on it, and he'll listen to anything you tell him, which is always good if you're coachable like that.
Oh yeah.
And you know what I mean? And you have that trust factor too. Like me and him have a trust factor now that, like, if I tell him to go eat dog shit, he'll do it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, he's gonna ask me why. He's gonna ask me, how's this gonna help me? And then I tell him, and then he'll be like, awesome, let's do it. Not to be like, why do I have to do that? He wants to really know. He wants to get smarter in the game. So yeah, I mean, he's just trying to soak up knowledge and be the best fighter and be the best athlete he can be. So that's definitely something that he's working towards. But I think that he could be a champion pretty soon.
I absolutely believe it, man. And I'm looking forward to his fight with Pettis. I think he should win, in my opinion.
Man, but if he doesn't win, I don't know what the hell happened, because he's looking super. Like, we've been working for like 16 weeks on this fight. You know what I mean? We've been working before the fight even got announced. So after the Eddie loss, I don't even say that Eddie lost. He beat Eddie.
Yeah, that should have been a DQ. There's no way that should have been
DQ.
Yeah, it should have been a DQ for Poirier. There's no way it shouldn't have been.
I know, man, but it is what it is. And then a week after, we got back into it. So and we've been grinding ever since. And like I said, we built this kid has a VO2 of an Olympic marathon runner. Like,
Really?
no lie. Yeah. I went and tested him. His VO2 max is through the chain. Like, I don't even know how I don't even know how he does it, but he has that, man. He just has that it. And now we're just kind of building upon weaknesses that aren't really weak. You know, now they're just getting better and better. And he's coming full circle. He's becoming an athlete along with being a great fighter. And that's scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And he's never in a boring fight. I mean, the one thing about Poirier, which is always like, just when you're looking at a fighter from the outside, is his chin. Is there a way to train that? I know that like training the neck muscles is supposed to be good for that.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's training the neck, training the traps, the upper traps, also jaw.
Right.
Even like, it sounds stupid, but man, even chewing gum will help the jaw get stronger. You know what I mean?
So
and there's muscles in the jaw that you need to work. So a lot of people don't think that, but also it's just timing and skill work and having good defense, and that's what we really improved upon, even from a physical preparation standpoint. Now I have him doing cognitive conditioning, where he's doing he's working on precision, he's working on timing, he's working on hand-eye coordination, and he's doing it in a semi-fatigue state. So when his heart rate's about 140, 150, he still has to think cognitively and also directly and with precision and super fast. So, I think that's going to also play a big role. He's seen tremendous results with it already in sparring, where he's not even getting hit, and he's seeing the punches as they are thrown instead of guessing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when that happens, then your timing is perfect. Your defense is starting to get to where it needs to be to actually not get hit all the time and not be in those crazy brawl-out fights. Because like I said, man, the human body wasn't made to take that much punishment.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that we are physically capable of taking care of blows, but also not getting hit, man. You can't get hit. You know, if you're gonna have longevity in the sport, look at Floyd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and they say defense it takes the longest to develop, but
it does, man. It's because everybody has that primal instinct in them to attack.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody can attack, but not a lot of people know how to elude punches or strikes or anything like that, because it's just not a natural thing. It's a natural thing for us to attack. So obviously he's a natural attacker, but now he's getting to the point where he can definitely be defensive.
Hey, that's awesome. I'm curious about that cognitive conditioning work. I just got my bachelor's degree in psychology, and a lot of my research was in flow, like flow theory. What does that look like? Is he catching tennis balls? Is he I mean, what is that specifically?
So we use and my partner actually can tell you more about this. He has his master's in sports psychology, and he comes in, and he actually was my high school football teammate. We went to high school together. But
awesome.
What we use is this thing called Fit Light, and basically they're just lights like
I think I saw Al Iaquinta and like Chris Weidman punching those.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily have them throw punches at them. It's more just for reaction timing.
Yeah. And
then there's also little things that we do. We took from Lemachenko's camp that he does with with number recognition and things like that while he's in a fatigue state. So he'll literally sit down with a pen and paper and then have the light on the side and have to. If you look at some of the videos, you'll see it. But we'll have a number graph on there. It's all mixed up, and then he'll have to do we'll go go for your twos, right? So he'll have to choose all the twos going up in an inclined state. So he'll have to go 2, 4, 6, 8. He'll have to find these numbers throughout scramble of numbers. And sometimes I'll turn the paper upside down, and I'll also put I mess him up bad, but
it's like chess
I'll turn the paper, and then I'll throw a small tennis ball at him. He have to catch it, throw it back, and then keep on going with his writing or with his marking down. And then the lights will hit. If the light lights up, he has to hit the light. So it kind of gives him a distraction, but he can't not be distracted to the point where he loses focus on the numbers. So
Wow.
now you're working on, from a fighter standpoint, you're working on full on focus of what the task at hand is coming for, and also proprioception, because you have to learn exactly what's going on around you, be mindful of it, but also still stay focused on what's in front of you.
Yeah, because I mean, in a fight, you got to make decisions at lightning speed when you're tired. And there's something called ego depletion where your brain gets fatigued, and gets fatigued along with your body, and you're less able to make decisions. I think honestly, like defensive geniuses like Jose Aldo and Floyd Mayweather, they have their defense structured to where they need to make fewer decisions. Like everything's automatic.
It's almost second nature.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and so they don't face ego depletion. But when you have when he fought Max Holloway, or when Aldo fought Max Holloway, forced him to make decisions late into the fight, and I think it was more getting tired mentally.
All right, everyone. That was Phil Daru with the MMA Outsiders. As a reminder, you can find us on social media. I am at Vorpality on Twitter and Facebook, VORPALITY. If you want to ever send any questions into the podcast, ask us anything, topics for discussions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or AJ. AJ is at...
I'm at AJ Herrick. My handle is AJAYHERICK.
On Twitter.com.
On Twitter.com. And you can also find me on Facebook. That's where I post a lot of my gigs. If you guys are ever out in Houston area, we're going to be venturing out sometime this summer. Might be in your area, so I'll keep you updated on that. But I'm going to be in Santa Fe Food Truck Park November 4th, Bolt House 10th and 11th. And those are just upcoming events for Slave the Verb. Just keep you on the lookout for that. Andrew, finish your outro.
Yeah, so make sure you follow MMA Mania on YouTube and SoundCloud, or wherever your podcast source is, iTunes, Stitcher, so you can experience all the latest podcasts. As a reminder, so we're going to be interviewing Andrew Richardson for a bonus episode later this week to preview UFC 217, and keep an eye out for upcoming interview with John Fitch, talking about anything and everything. So thank you for listening. This has been the MMA Outsiders.